Seeing Grendel thus pinioned by the Geatis hero and tortured and weakened by his pain, Beowulf's companions in arms drew their swords and sprang now to his side to help him in his fight, to finish if they could this murderous' wretched life. They were not to know, Beowulf's battle friends, that no man-made sword, no steel could pierce this cruel creature's enchanted hide. Only naked strength could end his unnatural life. Grendel understood this, and he knew he was weakening, that his end must be near. He could think of no possible way to escape. Great-hearted Beowulf, sensing his sagging strength, had him still by the arm, now twisted it and turned it until the shoulder muscles split apart. The tendons snapped, the bone joints burst, and Grendel's arm was ripped and wrenched, bleeding from his body. Then Grendel fled, armless and half dead already, from Heorot. Over the moors he staggered and stumbled, through the fens back to his den, knowing all the while that this was his last day on earth, that his life's blood was draining from him. He was dying his death. So Beowulf the good had triumphed in his bitter fight with Grendel the evil one. Thus were all Danish hopes fulfilled, and Beowulf's promise to them too. He had destroyed the great destroyer with his bare hands, saved Hrothgar's royal mead house and the Danish people from further terrors, and given them back the sanctuary of their hearth and their home. So that everyone should know that the tyrant was truly dead and their grief finally at an end, the hero hung high in the gables of Heorot, where all could see it and marvel at it too. That whole torn-off limb, shoulder, arm and hand, gruesome witness to the monster's violent end. By the next morning the news of the great fight of Heorot had spread throughout the land. They came in their hundreds from the seashore, from the fens and the moors and mountains, from near and far to see this hideous limb hanging there in the hall, and then to follow the fiendish foe's last footprints through the shadowy forest and the moor mist, tracking the trail of blood to the monster's marsh pool. To this remote and dismal place the dying monster had come only hours before, the last of his blood ebbing fast with ever-faltering step. Here he had dived to his miserable death, his hot wound blood bubbling and boiling in the brackish waves. So he had sunk at last to his cavernous lair below, and had died there alone in his agony, to be welcomed back in hell where he belonged. Beowulf's marvellous feat was now the talk of Heorot and all the Danish lands beyond. None was his equal, they said, none braver nor more worthy, even to be king here in Denmark in his own right. And this was not said to slight great Hrothgar, for he was good and a much loved king of his people, but only in praise of Beowulf and his great courage and strength. That day the poet wore his sword, told the story of the hero in glowing golden language, rang the word changes, and all who were there remembered and told it again and again, so that their children and their children's children should never forget his daring deeds, nor the noble name of Beowulf either. That evening all were summoned to Heorot, so that to that splendid mead hall, freed now forever from Grendel's evil reign, and cleansed of the night's horrors. Beowulf the Great, as guest of honour, came in with Hrothgar the king and his glorious queen, with all her maidens following, and gathering there now too, thronging Hrothgar's happy hall, were all the thanes and warriors, anyone who could find a place, each of them gazing in awe at the sight of Grendel's dreadful arm hanging there from the rafters. But it was not chiefly this grisly reminder that had come far, but to see Beowulf the Great, their great champion, sitting beside their joyous triumph and their relief at this timely and blessed deliverance. Taking his stand on the steps, his queen and Beowulf on either side, Hrothgar began his speech of thanks, and all there listened to every gracious word. Let our thanks be first to God above for his mercy, to the Master of heaven and Master of this earth, working of all miracles, for it is he who brought Grendel to his death at last. I will be honest with you. Until yesterday, when Beowulf came, I doubted whether Grendel, and I cursed his name for all the grief he brought us, could ever be overcome. Whether this loveliest of mead halls could ever be truly ours again, whether the damned demon's blood-letting slaughter could ever be brought to an end. Then God sent us this man, this hero amongst men. Now here, at my side, the noble Beowulf and his companions in arms, and together they have achieved in one night what we had tried and failed to do in 12 long years of sorrow. What mother would not have been proud to have borne such a son as this? What father does not yearn for a son like Beowulf? So Beowulf, best of men, from this moment I cherish you as I would my own son. And as I promised before, anything that is in my gifts you shall have. It will be small reward for your great service to all. Know also that your deeds will bring you greater riches still, which are my undying honour and gratitude and love, and that all of my people too, may Almighty God grant you always the success you enjoyed last night wherever you go, whatever the fight, whoever the foe may be. And the cheering that followed this rang loud in the rafters of Heorot, and was only silenced when Beowulf himself began to speak. It was not all in a proud or boasting tone. That was never his way. We came here willingly, my warriors and I, to challenge the evil one on your behalf, and with God's help we prevailed. Yet I am sorry you see hanging up there only his arm. I should have preferred you to see the rest of him here too. I tried my utmost to hold him fast, to squeeze the life out of him, but I did not have a good enough grip on him to prevent him escaping. By tearing himself away and leaving behind his arm, he must have hoped to save himself from death, wretched creature. But God did not wish it, and so the fiend lives no more. He will no more haunt your land or plague your people. Like any other murderous criminal, he awaits now God's own justice. We may only have his arm, but God has his evil soul, and will do with him as he pleases. All the talk was then of the fine words they had just heard, and of what the furious fight it must have been during that perilous night when Beowulf destroyed the beast. Long they gazed at the grotesque arm up there, at the horrible hand and fearsome fingers, the nails as strong as sharp steel, each one spurtolin, each a vicious warlike weapon, for gouging and gashing. They shuddered to look at it, to think what damage it could do, and marvelled once again at Beowulf's bravery. Then Hrothgar the king ordered the banqueting hall to be made ready at once for a feast. How willingly they went to work to prepare the place, adorning it richly, from golden gable to shining floor. They hung glowing gold-wrought tapestry. They mended or covered all the damage and destruction that greatest of all mead halls had suffered the night before, and prepared a great feast of thanksgiving, as the king had commanded. That evening, when all was ready, into that happy hall came Hrothgar and Beowulf again. All around them now, on the mead benches, sat the thanes and warriors, and as many of the good people of Denmark as the benches would allow. Hrothgar's queen was there, of course, all her ladies, all the Geatis warriors too, and all rejoiced and feasted as never before, the mead cup passing from hand to hand, until Heorot was filled once more with the laughter of friends, with sweet song and marvellous music, with unbounded joy. Then offering the cup to the queen, spoke to Hrothgar. Now, my lord and king, to these Geats speak graciously and generously, and let your gift promise not be forgotten now. For Heorot is ours again, cleansed of evil and bright again with joy. To Beowulf next she came with the cup, where he sat between her two sons, Rethic and Rothmund, and when he had drunk, then came the time of gifts. 2 arm wreaths were brought and robes of more gold rings, but best of all the richest collar, the finest prize, more ornate and finely wrought than any I ever saw. The most treasured jewel Hrothgar possessed, worn on the neck of great war-kings and heroes, a fabled collar for an already fabled warrior. It is no more than you deserve, Beowulf, said Hrothgar's fair queen, and all listened when she spoke, and agreed wholeheartedly. May good fortune come with these jewels, and may the rest of your life be always filled with happiness and prosperity, and may treasure come your way often in large amounts. Be strong, but be gentle too, and a wise guardian too to my two boys. By them and by me and my Lord Hrothgar your name will be held in honour and love till the end of time. How they cheered the Queen's words then, those thanes and lords and ladies! What a sumptuous feast it was of wine and food, and all held in a perfect harmony of joy and hope. They did not know then that the joy would be short-lived. The hope destroyed before even the night was over.